Sup, guys? We're here for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Welcome to your typical Friday video, Let's Talk. And I'm going to say typical that way because this may be releasing tomorrow instead of Friday. And mainly, I'm just going to quickly address that. So if this does happen, you're getting this video on a Thursday, don't worry, it's only going to be for this week, as preparations for Comic-Con New York and my wife being under the weather and me having to put more time for my kids is going to take priority number one. But besides the point, you'll get stock market tomorrow if that's the case. If not, stock market went up on time, cool. You know, whatever it's going to be. I always want to make sure you guys have content. That is the number one thing. So next week, I'll be at Comic-Con New York, so the video will be pre-recorded. But hey, it's all good. So there was a new archetype that I didn't get a chance to talk about because I wanted to spend a good, even possible 30 minutes talking about them and the potential that they have. I wanted to do my research and actually take time to develop the whole discussion that I wanted to bring to the table. And that is Juunishishi. I may be incorrectly saying that, and if I am, please disregard it, and don't take that out of context, but I will basically figure that out on my own by listening to other people talking about the same archetype, and I actually do. So, a few fun things I want to talk about this archetype is that, before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, is the stuff that it brings to the table, the cards that it can tech in. Obviously, the biggest thing that this deck will start off with is the Speedroid Terratop. I was like brain farting there. Speedroid Terratop comes out, gets you your Wind Speedroid, or it even gets you the Red Eye Dice, which I'll talk about that combo in a minute. And then you go into MX Saber and Volker. Now, what you can do to go the other route that I just had mentioned with the Red Eye Dice is basically get the Red Eye Dice, make your Speedroid Terratop level 2, and once it's level 2, then you can Synchro for a 3, which would be Goryo Defender. And then you can use Goryo Defender's effect to bring out 2 more Goryo Defenders, overlay 2 of them to an MX Saber and Volker. And Volker gets you one of the Juunishishi monsters. Sorry, there's a word that I'm thinking about is like Sunshi. Juunishishi monster to the board. Well, basically your Zoodiac monster. Let's phrase it that way. Your Zoodiac monster to the board. And then from there, obviously, you can go crazy combos and then eventually land on Naturia Beast because you have a little dog that has not been used in ages and came out of the anniversary pack, I think about 10 years ago. Holy shit. So it's been a while. So there's plenty of combos with that, but the main 2 cards you're going to see in this deck, and I do want to address one thing, you should never maxi when you see the Terratop. When you see the Terratop and you maxi, if someone is using Mancore of Darkness in their build, they can FTK you without even putting damage into you. Basically, what will happen is a Mancore of Darkness loop that will allow them to constantly special 1 back from the grave, back from the grave, back from the grave. So basically, they keep doing this until you're down to 0 cards. And when you're down at 0 cards, they pass turn, you deck out because you played Max C. It's a hilarious situation, very situational, but just one of those things you gotta be very careful of. So some of the key tech cards of this deck, and you'll hear me saying it further down the line as I'm actually developing the deck profile. So Jar of Avarice, great for recycling everything back in. This deck goes through its extra deck so extremely quickly. We may even see Pot of Avarice return. Keyword, we may see it return when these guys are released in about 6 months to the TCG, because I really do believe Konami wants to push them, but I don't know if they will push it that far. We also don't know the Spell and Trap support, and that could be our Pot of Avarice, but the OCG has Pot of Avarice, hence I'm bringing it up. Daigaso Morel. Don't be surprised if you see a price rise starting to happen for this guy, and then super duper increasing as we get closer to it, because that is something you can do. Now, the deck is rank 4 focused, but there is a way possible to go into Quasar, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it, but it all stems from the Goryo Defender part, and if you go Goryo Defender, you're typically not just doing that off their own engine, you're just doing it at the fact that, hey, look, I could do this, and if I put Brilliant Fusion, I can go another way of doing it. It's a hilarious combo. Basically, invoice Soya and giving up most of your extra deck to drop a Quasar, which I don't recommend, but it is a possibility to do for this deck. Mass Chameleon is also great for the deck. It's great tech because everything's got pretty much zero defense on the Exceeds. I'll get to that, trust me. Things like Exceed Gift, Exceed Universe, and Generation Force, things that were pretty much never seen or used. A Tech Tuesday card, which was Exceed Universe, and something like Black Garden, because these guys, their Exceeds basically focus on what the original attack points were onto your little monster that you make off of it. The thing I love about this archetype is that basically, if there's one monster on the board, you don't need two to make an Exceed. It only takes one, and then you can lay another Exceed over an Exceed material, which is an Exceed over an Exceed over an Exceed over an Exceed. Makes something like, I think, Stoic Challenger. It makes it busted as hell. I can't remember the name completely. I probably got it right. But it just makes that card so dumb because you can end game so quickly. So I want to talk about the monsters, obviously, because the monsters are the heart in the deck of this. Obviously, things like... First thing I want to mention before we go completely into the monsters themselves is Jackie! If you ever watch Jackie Chan, the Zoodiacs, the Talismans, this is pretty much what the archetype is based of, the 12 Zodiac little animals. And I think that is such a cool concept, and I can't wait to see how Konami furthers this whole thing. So I'm going to start with Bullhorn, which is one of the Exceeds. And basically, once per turn, you could also exceed this by using a Juunishishi Bullhorn, by using one Juunishishi monster you control with a different name as Exceed material. Basically, as you would put Utopia to Lightning over Utopia, you could do this with just one monster on the board. As long as it's a Juunishishi monster and not this exact one, you can instantly go into that Exceed, which is great. So this card gains attack and defense equal to the attack and defense of all the Juunishishi monsters attached to it as Exceed materials. Hence, I was saying, they focus on a lot of zero attack point kind of things. And Black Garden's great tech. We talked about all attack. And that's why I didn't want to do the news video. That's why I wanted to break it down this way. So once per turn, you can detach one Exceed from this card and add one Beast Warrior type monster that can be normal summon or set from your deck to your hand. So this is another way. It's like a extra deck searcher to get into that hardcore combo. Now, you pretty much can just take 15 damn Exceeds and slap them all on top of each other, play Stoic Challenge, and hope to God your opponent doesn't have Floodgate.deck to stop you. So that is something hilarious. And then we have the Tigress, which is the tiger. We talked about the bull, we talked about the bull, now we're talking about the tiger. It's once per turn, you can also exceed one Juunishishi Tigress by using one Juunishishi monster you control with a different name as Exceed material, but typically it's 3 level 4 monsters, and this card's attack and defense become equal to the attack and defense of all the monsters attached to it. They all have that effect that are the Exceeds. Monsters attached to this as Exceeds. Once per turn, you can detach one Exceed from this card, target one face-up Exceed monster you control, and one Juunishishi monster in your graveyard, and attach it as material. That's pretty cool, but they really lack something super big to make of that power, so most of the times these guys are going to be in defense mode while they trigger their effects off. Then we get to the Dragon, who arguably, and I will say, is probably their boss monster to be completely fair, because he is an Exceed, works the same way just like the other ones, requires 4 level 4 monsters, and this card gains attack and defense, obviously, the same way as the other ones do. But once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one Exceed from it, and then target one face-up card in the field and destroy it. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to sound like I'm hating, but I'm not. I'm trying to be realistic on where they would stand if they were to become a meta deck. The problem is that they have to basically... And again, not everything's revealed. They have to be able to do what they need to do. So if Card Demise is still around with Floodgate.deck, this deck is not going to possibly, make the cut for meta. At this time, we're going to have like full powered ABC, full powered deities. You have all these other decks coming up. And I gotta see where Konami really does take this. Like I said, the deck's got a lot of potential, and the player base is finding out new combos for it, so I definitely think it's going to make an impact in some shape or form. but the fact that the destruction effect targets hurts their playability. Not that it's bad, it's absolutely amazing, and this is going to definitely be ran at 3 currently until we see the rest of the support, and that could change overnight because it could just be, you know, something else works better with the field, or if I keep saying a field, as I'm assuming 99% this deck will get a field spell card. It's just a Konami thing to do. Then we get to the Wild Bow. Yeah, I said it right. Okay. 5 level 4 monsters, and this card can attack your opponent directly. And when this card has 12 or more exceeds materials, inflicts damage to your opponent, you can send as many cards as possible from your opponent's hand and field to the graveyard, and then changes to defense. Let me just make this very, 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 very clear. You have to give up 12 exceed materials to bring this out. This works the same way as the rest of the Juunishishi monsters, where you can just attach it to a Juunishishi monster as long as it's not this one. But let me just be completely honest for those of you who are super scared about this card ruining the whole game. It needs 12 materials, and you have to give up your entire extra deck. Drop effect Velaron, it cries in the corner. Is at most of the time it's going to have like 1600 attack, and it's not that much. You don't really got to worry about it. You get what I'm saying? Or you just play like Quaking Mirror Force or Floodgate Trap Hole. You know, those are great options to use against it. Just say, I mean, obviously at some point there'll be a guy to your side for Juunishi's. I'm not going to deny that much. It's what I do. Okay, so I had to include this part because the Spell and Trap support got revealed, stock market came out, so let's just talk about those. The Zoodiac sign, this is in case you missed the news video. If you didn't miss the news video, you can skip ahead. The Zoodiac sign makes Juunishishi monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense, and with all their amazing turn 1 plays, this is going to give them a little bit more of a boost, but the secondary effect reads, your opponent cannot target beasts, warrior type monsters you control for an attack except a beast warrior type monster you control with the highest attack. Also pretty nifty, and I really do think the deck could use, if it wanted to, something like Moon Mirror Shield, because then obviously, hey look, you have to attack into it if you want to attack anything. So that's pretty cool, well, Beast Warrior wise. Once per turn, if a Juunishishi monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one other monster you control or have in your hand instead. That's pretty damn amazing for a field card. That's going to help them do what they're pretty much set out to do. Make those powerful turn 1 plays just off a Terror Top or just off, I always forget what it is. I want to say the rat. But there's like 20 other ways of going about it. Deck's consistent, what can I really say? Then this continuous spell card, you can only use the effect of it once per turn. You can target one face-up card you control and destroy it, and if you do, you special one Juunishishi monster from your deck. And if this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Juunishishi Exceed you control, attach this card as material from the graveyard. So that's also pretty nifty. And then the trap card is a themed Pot of Avarice, so that also works out really well for them. So it has 2 effects. One is target one Juunishishi Exceed monster you control, attach one Juunishishi monster from your deck to that target as Exceed material. Combine that with the field, you power pump your monster. Then following the turn that it's, put to the graveyard anytime afterwards, during either player's turn except the turn that obviously it was sent to the graveyard, you could banish it from your graveyard and target 5 Juunishishi cards with different names in your graveyard, shuffle them all 5 into the deck and draw 1 card. It does what Jar of Avarice did. It is beautiful. It is great. I am actually excited about this deck in 100% seriousness. The only problem I really do have is maybe it's just like not completely understanding it. I feel like they're kind of like Hat right now in the sense that they're able to disrupt you and what you want to do playability wise. So basically what I'm saying is here, Dragon's effect can be used on either player's turn. And since it can be used on either player's turn, it could disrupt your opponent's synchro play or exceed play, wherever they want to build to, and just completely shut out your opponent. And then from there, you take your little guy or your Gidget trainer, if you put that on the board, or your number 38, and you start whacking them away. There's plenty of cool little combos that the community's still discovering, OCG and TCG together. I think it's beautiful. I really freaking do. On to the rest of the video. Now we get to the monsters that make up the deck, and we're going to be talking about Mole Rat, And when it's Exceed material, once per turn, you can detach one Exceed from this card, special one Juunishishi Mole Rat, from your hand or deck. It's basically hey, play Foolish Burial, it's got 0 defense, bring it back, make another Exceed, go from there, do what you need to do. I think I said this before. I'm still learning the deck, so I may be saying something incorrectly, and just bypass that whole theory and forgive me, but this is just my basic understanding. I'm not super scared of a deck that has 0-point monsters, and they just seem really toolboxy and a faster way to exceed. While I like this, like I said, I can already see flaws, and that's just typically how my brain works, but who knows, because of just the player base alone, in the span of, I think, a week, putting this together, just this whole thing of how well the deck works, I think it's definitely going to be up there. And then we get to Thoroughblade, which is personally my favorite. He's got 1600 attack, unlike if I'm not mistaken, the Mole Rat has 0. The Thoroughblade has 1600 attack, and when it's normal summon or special, you can discard one Juunishishi card, and if you do, you draw one card and Exceed, whose original type is Beast Warrior. With this Exceed material, gains the following effect. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict battle damage to your opponent. Something tells me, just going back to the theory on the supposed, because I'm just assuming here that they'll get spell and trap support of some sort, that's going to have something to do with the materials. There is a lack of a way to power pump these guys outside of Stoic Challenger, which is an amazing tech card for this deck. I'm not denying that. But I just like to take it with a grain of salt and go, you know what? They still need something a little bit more that's themed archetype, maybe searchable, and they can go from there. Maybe some with a graveyard effect, because obviously you could discard it then and then use the graveyard effect, so that's a thing. And we get to Viper. Now, I'll be honest, at first, when I first read Viper, when these guys were spoiled, I'm like, well, Viper doesn't seem that good, and then you test it, you're like, holy shit. So, during either player's turn, you can target one Beast Warrior type Exceed monster you control, attach this card from your hand or field to it as Exceed material. So, you're going to give that monster 1200 more, for the simple fact that most of the time it's going to be a Juunishishi monster. There's very few monsters in your extra deck that are not going to be those. Just making that very, very clear. Again, right now, because when I make this video, an Exceed monster whose original type is Beast Warrior with this gains the following effect. If this card bows an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, banish the opponent's monster. That's kind of scary because it makes it a DD Warrior Lady, and you also have the, you can pitch one. Is it pitch one, or did I screw that up? Target one beast, one attaches. Yeah, I screwed that up. Then we have Ram, which is, if it's destroyed by battle card effect, you target one Juunishishi monster in your graveyard, except the Ram and special summon Exceed. With this, will gain the following effect. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a trap card or targets this card, you can detach one Exceed from this card to negate the activation. Ram is pretty much never used. Too situational. 2000 defense with 800 attack is kind of meh. I mean, if anything, maybe I would tech one just for the simple fact that, hey, 2000 defense, if that carried over, that'd be pretty nifty. But again, pretty nifty. So then we get to Rabbit, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the final card here for the archetype, so I can just get it in there. 800 attack, 800 defense. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one Juunishishi card in your graveyard, except the Rabbit, add to your hand and Exceed. With this, gains the following effect. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell card or an effect that targets this card, you can detach one Exceed from this card, negate the activation. I can't really think of too many spell cards, but yeah, it's not really important because, the nice thing is, in this core set of Raging Tempest, Konami is giving the Zoodiac deck pretty much what I'm assuming will be all their monster support, and everything else will be spells and traps laid on top. So right now, the thing with Terratop, I'm going to just try to explain it to the best of my ability here. You special Terratop, search out Tangaborg. Special Tangaborg overlay for MX Saber Invoker. From Invoker, there's like 20 different pathways you can usually take, and that will either lead to the Mancore Darkness loop that I was referring to, or the Goryeo Defender is pretty much if you want to do the Red Eye Dice instead of the Tonga board, there's that too. So, MX Saber effect, special rat overlay to Widow Bow on top of rat, detach rat to special rat from deck. That's a thing. Overlay Tigress on top of Widow Bow, detach Widow Bow to attach rat from grave, detach rat to special summon rat from deck. Overlay Bullhorn on top of Tigress, detach search for Captain Bearman. You can normal summon it, it's a level 8 monster, and then from there you can make, because it makes everything else that remains on the board, because you have 2 other monsters, into level 8s, and then make the Coach King Giant Trainer, use his effect to burn your opponent for like 8 each, but then you draw 3 new cards, and since you want to do this on turn 1, not only will you end up with 7 cards, but you end up with 2 exceeds on the board. So that's pretty nifty, just off, and again, follow me here. This is just off making a rank 3, which is laughable. Laughable that Speedroid, the Speedroid can do so much in that whole spectrum of things. He is your enabler. The problem is, I did look at it, I'm like, you know what, Galaxy Worm could work, because it's another way of hitting MX Saber and Volker. But then you can't do Bearman. And Bearman going in number 38 gives you protection from, oh wait, not number 38, going to Giga Trainer basically means you're not going to get the +3. Meaning that Galaxy Worm, as nice as it is, unless it's free special summon, it ain't worth the time. And there is a couple other monsters that are level 3 that can special themselves right off the bat. So obviously the deck is still being developed. I just want to say this much. I am still learning the combos to the deck, and most of those combos I do have to give credit to the OCG players, to Pojo, to you guys in the comment sections, even to you, the few of you that I talk to on Facebook or, on Skype, because I do talk to some of you. So obviously the deck is still in development, and we don't know if there's going to be Spell and Trap support. We can assume there is, but I'd love to hear what you guys think about all this stuff, because I think they got potential to become meta if the format after this current one that we're having, by the time we get to Raging Tempest, we should be getting a new ban list, lines up for them to take that spot. But let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you in the next video. As always, thank you so much for watching. If this video comes out on a Thursday, don't worry. Stock market will drop out tomorrow. That is 150,000 million% guaranteed. I'm Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. If you enjoyed the video and you're brand new, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more.